Alright, I got these 1/2-inch overload springs for 2025 Outback, and I'll show you how to put them on. I just did the passenger side, and now that I know what I'm doing, I can walk y'all through it. So, stand by. Alright, so first thing you want to do is find your wheel lock key, loosen up all your lug nuts just a tad so you can take it off while the car's in the air. And then in the trunk area, this panel right here, it's hard to see, but it just pops off to the side. I guess I can show you on this side. Pops off in that way, and then that gives you access to your strut bolts. They're a 14mm, easy enough to take them off. Like I said, I already did the passenger side, so now I'm going to do the driver's side. Alright, since the wheel's off, got the wheel off now, what we're needing to do is replace this with the Rallitek over 1/2-inch lift overload springs. We've got, where's my light? This is a 17mm, this is a 14, and you should just need to remove those two, and you're able to push down on the suspension with those two disconnected to get this out of here. Of course, don't forget to undo the two 14mm nuts in the trunk area. Alright, got those nuts off. It's hard to see in there, it's dark right now. Now, this is gonna be tricky because I've got this breaker bar, got the end under the A-arm and the other part on the caliper bracket, and I'm trying to flex this down to be able to remove the two bolts there and then eventually get the strut out. Alright, so got the strut out using that A-arm flexing, and here it is. Pretty heavy, so it's easy enough for me to do this, but you might need a second person. Alright, so got my spring compressors on this, and I'll start cranking down so I can get this 14mm nut off without the spring shooting across the garage here. Okay, so now that you can see there's a bit of a gap between the spring and this top hat, that's how I know that this is ready to take off. Alright. Finally got this nut off. Top hat comes off easy. Make sure that the bump stop stays on there. And I will have to fish this dust cover off. So that can slide back over the top here. And Rallitek springs, make sure that the logo is facing up, and you just slide it over. Ensure that there's no gap between the bottom of the spring and the angled bit on the strut. Can throw the top hat back on. And one thing I found out about these springs is they're just slightly shorter, so I do not have to compress the spring to get it back, the nut back on here. It's only on there like a thread or two, but I'll be able to tighten it down. And now what the most important thing about this is to ensure that these studs are in line with the bottom eyelet. If it's not in line, then you're gonna have to really struggle to get it in line before you're able to put it back on the car. All right, got the spring installed and ready to go back on the car. Now, same as the install, you have to push this down a lot to be able to snake the bottom eyelet into the control arm, push it down, and then you'll seat the top 2 studs at the top. Alright, got it back in, and you can see the 2 studs sticking out. I'll just put those back on before we proceed any further. You don't have to tighten them down fully just yet. Just get a good few threads on there. And then we'll come down here and get the bottom eyelet to line up with the bolt hole, reconnect the sway bar end link, and then put the wheel back on. Alright, got the rear bolts back in and torqued down. I'll post the torque spec in the description. But that all looks good. Already buttoned up on the inside, so now let's just put the wheel back on, lower it down, torque the lug nuts, and go test. Alright, it's completed, back on the ground. Could barely tell, but that's exactly what I wanted, because if this is anything like my old Subaru Crosstrek 2018, the rear sagged very heavily as soon as we put anything in it. So this car only has over 600 miles on it, so it's going to be very nice life with these instead of the factory springs that sag with just passengers.